Hello and welcome to the MyVA Dayton Podcast, coming to you from Dayton, Ohio. This is the show where we talk with veterans in the Western Ohio region to share their stories and share what's happening at the Dayton VA Medical Center. I'm Scott Leese, your host, with co-host Greg Tucker. We have with us today a U.S. Army veteran, Zulma Schrupp.
Hi.
As a native New Yorker, she served in the U.S. Army for 6 years as a specialist in the Transportation Corps 88H, stationed at Fort Eustis, Virginia. Zulma did one tour in Iraq and a JLOTS mission to Honduras in 2004. This is where she met her husband of 19 years. Zulma is a proud mother of 2 children, 11 years old, an 11-year-old daughter, and a 17-year-old son, and 3 little doggies, 3 fur babies. After leaving the service, she went back to school and obtained a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration with a minor in Project Management and a graduate certification in Accounting. Zulma currently works as a GS employee for the Defense Finance and Accounting Service in Columbus, Ohio. She is also a Veterans Commissioner for Champaign County, Post Officer for AMVETS Post 121, and Post Officer for the American Legion Post 120 in Urbana, Ohio. Zulma comes from a large military family. Before we get to know a little bit more about you, we are going to put you to the test.
Oh, Lord.
That's right, it's time to play Don't Tell Me, I Think I Know That. This is the game where we put our guests to the test of their knowledge of military trivia. A game where listeners can also play along to see if their minds are mired in mounds of military minutia as ours are. Are you ready to take this challenge, Zulma?
Let's go for it.
All right, so here's your first question. When did the Transportation Corps become an official part of the Army? Would it be A, July 31st, 1942, B, April 15th, 1775, C, September 7th, 1884, or D, June 26th, 1905? Now, that's pretty specific. Can you just give me the year? Do you know what year?
I'll go with the year 1942.
That is correct.
Yay!
The Corps was established in its current form on 31 July 1942, with predecessor services dating back to the American Civil War. Currently headquartered at Fort Lee, Virginia, the officer in charge of the branch for doctrine, training, and professional development purposes is the Chief of Transportation and Commandant of the U.S. Army Transportation School. The Corps' motto is, "Nothing happens until something moves." Okay, so here is your second question. What branch does the Transportation Corps fall under? Would it be A, the Cavalry, B, Combat Support, C, Taxi Service, or D, Regional Transit Authority?
Oh, this is an easy one. Combat Support.
That is correct. The Transportation Corps is a combat service support branch of the U.S. Army. It is responsible for the movement of personnel and military by truck, rail, air, and sea. It is one of the 3 U.S. Army logistic branches, the other being the Quartermaster Corps and the Ordnance Corps. Now, you're doing fantastic. You got 2 for 2. Let's see if you can make it 3 out of 3.
All right.
Okay. During which war did the Transportation Corps expand its capability? Would it be A, the Korean War, B, World War II, C, the Vietnam War, or D, the Cold War?
I believe it's the Vietnam War.
You've got 3 for 3. Terrific. Yes, the Vietnam War saw the most diversified assortment of transportation units ever assembled. For over a decade, the Transportation Corps provided continuous support for American and Allied forces through an unimproved tropical environment using watercraft, amphibious, motor trucks, and Transportation Corps aircraft. The enemy threat to convoys required a unique solution: gun trucks. So, Greg, what has Zulma won for playing our game today?
For answering all those questions correctly, we have a set of 4 Dayton VA industrial strength chip clips designed by NASA's aerospace engineers to keep your chips crisp on your next stellar space journey or wherever you may be traveling in the near future. All compliments of the Dayton VA.
Well, congratulations. You did fantastic. 3 out of 3. We're going to take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll hear more from Zulma about her military service and civilian career.
I was in the military. I didn't know that when I left, I was eligible for health care through the VA. I thought you had to be disabled or have been wounded. Another vet told me I should check it out. Now, I have the care I need at the Dayton VA.
Don't wait another day to see how the VA may help you.
I'm a vet, and it's my VA. Make it your VA today.
Call 937-268-6511, extension 2159 to enroll, or visit dayton.va.gov.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. If you're having a tough time or thinking about suicide, you're not alone, and there's hope. VA's Veterans Crisis Line has responders who listen and help. Many are veterans or have veteran family members and friends, so they're prepared to address your challenges. Don't wait. Dial 988, then press 1.
So, Zulma, you're not a native Ohioan. You're from New York?
Correct.
What part of New York?
Queens, New York.
Oh, wow. Right there in the heart of things, huh?
Oh, yes.
So, how did you end up in Ohio?
So my husband, he's originally from Urbana, Ohio. And of course, after I got out and he retired from the military, we kind of looked at the logistics of where it would be feasible to raise a family. And, you know, of course, New York, I love my city. It's just too expensive. So
Sure.
Ohio was, you know, more economical reason.
Yes, cost of living here is great compared to either coast. So
Yes. But I still go back from time to time because my mom lives over there. So we still go back, and I still have my New York pizza.
All right.
Plus your accent.
Oh, yes.
A little bit of an accent, yes. So what is a good New York pizza? What is that like? I mean, I'm from Illinois, and I think of Chicago and deep dish pizza.
Oh, no.
I know, exactly. Everyone's got their pizza.
So I always say it's the Hudson River that makes the pizza. It's the water. But you take that big pie, and as long as you're able to bend it down the middle and all that grease just dripping down, oh, my God. But the point has to stay up. The point can't, if the point goes down when you cut that pie slice in half, and it just kind of like limps down, that's not a good pizza. It has to stay pointing up.
So you're a real thin crust, crispy crust pizza lover.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And that's what New York pizza is, right?
Yes. Oh, my God.
Okay.
It's just heaven on a pie.
So how long have you been here in Ohio?
Oh, my. We've been in and out of Ohio since 2005. I got out of the military. When I got pregnant with my first child, I was kind of scared. So I kind of got out. So we moved back to Urbana. I think we lasted maybe 6 months because my husband just got out of the Navy. And he went to a factory job, and we both looked at each other. We're like, this is not for us. We need to go back in. So within less than a year of us being discharged, we actually re-enlisted back.
Both of you?
Yes. He did it first. And then I was like, he can't have all the fun now. I have to have some fun. And so the Navy wasn't taking prior service at that time, so he enlisted to the U.S. Army, the best branch, by the way. And so he got smart. And so he enlisted in the Army, and I kind of went back home to take care of my dad for a little bit. And then I joined back up again, and we both got stationed at Fort Eustis again. So
what was your motivation on initially joining your first two?
So my sister had joined, and my sister is very flimsy. She's very girly, you know, with the long nails and everything. And then, you know, of course, 9/11. I was in high school when that happened, and I just seen that. And then, of course, my sister got she was stationed at Fort Riley, and they was already getting ready to deploy. Like 2 days after that happened, they was getting ready to be shipped out. And then I just kind of looked back and was like, I need to be a part of that. I need to do something for my country and be there for my sister. And so I went to my recruiter, and I joined up. So I actually joined up senior year, and I was going through the MEPS. And it was like around Christmas time, and it's like I just couldn't pee on the spot because you know they have to watch you when you pee,
Yes,
and I couldn't
they do.
pee. And I drank so much water that I just threw up. So I had to go back. But I threw up so much, and then I had wound up having something. And I was actually underweight. I joined at 94 pounds. So I kind of needed a waiver. And so when I joined up, it was kind of crazy. But yeah, and so I was calling my sister like, hey, what job should I take? Which is good? And she was like, just go with the transportation. They're good. So that's how I got when they told me what job to pick, I told them. And there we go. Funniest part about my whole initial enlistment was that when I took my ASVAB, it was in high school, but I had a softball game that day because I'm a big softball player. And so I didn't even finish my ASVAB because at that point I didn't think I was going in. And so, yeah, so everything happens for a reason.
What did you take away? What was your most memorable experience with the military?
Oh, I had too many. Best one was I was in the field. We was doing field op, and the maintenance platoon took our captain like hostage and duct taped him around the tree. and I'm on the radio, and it's my first field op. I didn't know what I was doing. And I'm like saying all the wrong things. And my LT comes in. He was like, at that time, my last name was Martinez. He was like, Martinez, stay away from the radio because nobody understood what I was saying because my accent was really, really strong. And then I'm also Latina. So it was like I was getting everything all screwed up and nobody understood me. But I had to say that was the best memorable thing that
duct tape to a tree.
Yeah.
Now that's a new one. I've never heard of duct taping a captive to a tree. That's unique.
He was a good sport. He just laughed and then afterwards he made the whole company do push-ups.
So I have a question for you. You mentioned an acronym.
Yes.
And that was JLOT. What does that stand for?
JLOT means Joint Logistics Over Terrain. And what it is a mission. Usually sometimes it's humanitarian mission. But it has all the branches come together and we work as a team. So my JLOT's mission was in Honduras in 2004. And we had the Marines, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Army. And we had two locations in Honduras. There was a really good one, almost towards the airfield, which was near the Capitol. And then there was me, where it was in BFE, right next to the Dole plant. I had the tents. The other team had, 5-star hotel. And
with the Air Force guys were in the hotel, right?
Well, part of my Army guys, too.
Oh, okay. Which
I was jealous. But it's okay because you know what? I was able to sit by the beach during the day and work at night. So we had a flicker tail merchant marine ship because we worked with them too. And our mission was to take the connexes off the merchant marine ship and bring it onto shore and then just kind of distribute it going back to the airfield. But in the meantime, in those connexes and stuff, there was, supplies for the Hondurans people and go on. But it was fun because that's where I met my husband.
I was about to say.
So yeah, he was my Mike 8 boat driver.
Okay. And
throughout of friends and stuff, playing dominoes in our leisure time, I was introduced to him and met there. So ever since then.
Well, wow. Sounds like a fascinating story. We'll pick up on that. And after you get out of the military, we'll talk about your transition to the civilian sector after this break.
Sure.
This is a message from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. If you were exposed to toxic substances while serving in the military, a new law called the PACT Act may make you eligible for additional benefits and care. The PACT Act benefits veterans of the Vietnam era, Gulf War era, and post-9/11 era who were exposed to toxic fumes, burn pits, Agent Orange, radiation, and other environmental hazards. Survivors of toxic exposed veterans and veterans who served in specific countries in Africa, the Middle East, and Southwest Asia are also potentially eligible. Learn more about the PACT Act by going to va.gov/PACT or by calling 1-800-MyVA411. We at VA are here for you, and we're ready to get you the care and benefits you've earned and deserve. I'm Mike Richmond.
And we're back with U.S. Army veteran Zulma Schrupp.
So that is a really unique name. Is that a family name or is it?
No. So my mom, she's from Puerto Rico, and she had two best friends during her schooling. And one of them, her name was Zuma, and the other one was Rebecca. And so I guess she made a promise to herself that she would name her children after her best friends. So the oldest one was Rebecca, and I'm Zuma. And it's weird because when I was little, I hated that name. Like, because everybody made fun of me. And then when I was 18, I was like, you know what? That's a unique name. I like it. I'm not going to change it.
Absolutely.
But it's so weird. Like I said, everybody butchers it. My husband, when he was in the Navy, his Navy friends used to call me Zima, like the beer. Well, that says where their heads were.
Sure.
And then my husband's grandmother, she used to call me Zelma, like the game, like the Nintendo game Zelma, Zelda. I mean, and so yeah, so I'm used to it. And then
So even your grandmother mispronounced your name. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you pretty much answer to anything then.
Yeah,
don't you?
pretty much.
Okay.
I'm like, well, when you're in the military, everybody goes by your last name.
Sure.
So my maiden name is Martinez, but my married name is Schrupp. Well, they all had troubles pronouncing my married last name. So because I was short, they used to call me Shrimp.
Yeah, everybody has their nicknames in the military with their pals and buds.
Oh, yes. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
So after your tour in the military and your transition out of the military, tell us about that.
So after I got out, I moved back here to Ohio because my husband, he was actually getting ready to deploy to Afghanistan. And so it was kind of very depressing, actually. I went to my local VSO officer who got me to do my claim and all the other services. So I went through him, got my appointments and stuff. But it was still like, I still felt a void. And for many years I felt that void. Like I felt like, man, I let my brothers and sisters down. Like, well, because I was a mom, of course that takes precedence. But at the same time, I took resentment out of my child. I'm like, I love my son. He's 17 and he's about to graduate high school, which is awesome. But during that, he was maybe about 3 and 4. And I was okay when I was still living on post because I still felt like I was still part of a team, kind of, sort of, because I would see all my friends and I understood what they was going through. But when I left Virginia to come back here, like I said, I went into this deep depression, bad depression. And I knew something wasn't right with me. Like I said, I felt like I disappointed a lot of people, especially my dad. And I just felt like, man, it's like, when you're on a team and they kick you out, or you just had to leave because of an injury, and you just felt like, man, I could do so much more. I'm still young. I could do so much more. And of course, me and my husband, we compete a lot, especially when we was both in the military. And now it's just him in the military. And so I felt lost. After a couple months, I had to seek help. It was a dark spot for me. And it took me a very long time to get out of that. But now I'm okay. But I had to seek that help. I had to go to mental health in order to get back to where is me again. Not something that I feel regret or that I fail.
Okay. Now, after you had gotten the help and you got back on track, then that's when you started going to school and...
It was in between the help.
Okay.
When my husband got back from Afghanistan, I had to move back to Virginia. And then he got hurt. He was medevac from Afghanistan. So that kind of took my mind to a different direction because I had to help him. I was going down and I was contemplating suicide, and I went to the VA. Like I said, that time I was near the Columbus VA, so I went there and I told them what was going on, and I seeked help from there, which kind of helped me and kind of bring me back to like, okay, what I'm doing is not right.
Right, and that's we hear that occasionally from folks that are struggling with those issues, that they're contemplating suicide or harming themselves in another way, or they just get down. And a lot of veterans, especially if it's from PTSD or some other kind of stress from military life, which yours was, because you have a husband who was suffering, and then thinking about divorce and military families. A lot of people don't really always think about the stress that goes on with the rest of the family members.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Yes, and I totally agree. I'm like, I've looked at programs through the VA and just outside the VA, and they don't really. I'm like, which is awesome that they focus on the veteran and PTSD on that aspect, but they also don't realize that that's like a spillage, It goes on to the spouse and children, and especially if that spouse has not been in the military or wasn't even in like the military life.
Right.
They don't understand.
Yeah.
I have quite a few friends of mine whose marriage or relationship deteriorated because they're civilian. They don't understand our lingo. They don't understand
Absolutely.
our mindset and what it goes through. So to them, they feel like they're being attacked or it's too much to handle. And I think, we need something for them.
Absolutely. And you know what there is, actually? Our listeners of this program might be familiar with the number that we've talked about in the past, which is the toll-free number. Actually, it's a new number now, 988. All you have to do is press 988, and it will take you to a hotline. And the great thing about that is that I think when you go to 988, you press 1, you're actually going to the Veterans Hotline.
Oh, really?
And it's not just for veterans. It's for anyone who has that experience with the military, to include spouses, family members, or even family members that know of someone else in crisis within their circle, and they can talk to them. And it's as we talked earlier about how the military is unique. It's not the same as the civilian world, and there are all kinds of other pressures and situations that put people in crisis. And there you can talk to other veterans or somebody who at least understands what veterans go through and the challenges they face. So we encourage anyone who is in crisis or knows of someone in crisis that they call 988 for assistance.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know about that number.
Yeah. Well, and I think and the military crisis line has been there for a long time, but this is a new number to it and a slightly new capability. So
that's awesome.
Absolutely. So, you came back to Ohio, you had your challenges, but you also started a new career in federal service, right?
Yes. I'm an accounting technician with DFAS, which is awesome because for like about 15 years I've been nonstop trying to apply to get into the GS.
Yeah. What is DFAS?
Department of Financial Accounting Services.
Okay.
So, which is great because I get to work from home, so that's even better. That's a plus. But it's so hard. But in that sense, I feel like I'm back to being a part of the military in a minute sense. So, yeah, I love it.
You work with a lot of veteran organizations also.
Yes, I am a post officer, like they mentioned, for AMVETS in Urbana and American Legion. And it's weird because I never knew of these places. I'm like, I knew when you get out of the military, they tell you about all these services. You know, they tell you about go to your local veteran service officer to do your claims and stuff, or you could indicate, you know, the VFW, AMVETS, American Legion, DAB as your POA for your claims and stuff. But they never tell you that there's like a clubhouse or a canteen.
That's right.
I never knew that.
They're great military fraternal organizations.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And so my father-in-law was the one that brought us into AMVETS because they had, you know, they play cards on a Legion. And so I'm a vivid poker player. And so we went in there and played poker, and I was like, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. And so I met a couple of girls there during COVID. This all happened during COVID. That I met and became friends, and they offered me a job there as a bartender. I didn't know anything about bartending. And so I was like, yeah, sure, why not? It's during, you know, COVID just finished, and I was still trying to get myself in the GS position. And so it was fun. It was super fun.
Yeah.
Listening to all their stories and stuff, I'm like, yes, it's an older generation. You know, a lot of them was from Vietnam or the Korean War. But just listening to them, I felt at home again, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. That's those military fraternal organizations. That's where a lot of people go because, as you said before, you know, you left the military. And all of a sudden you felt like you were out of the loop.
Yes.
And when people retire, a lot of people have that challenge of, okay, well, I don't have that connection anymore. I'm no longer part of the brother or sisterhood of the military. But you go to an American Legion or a VFW or AMVETS or other fraternal organizations such as those, that is where you find that connection again. Everyone, you can relate to everyone in the house because they've all been in the military. They've all had similar circumstances and experiences.
Yes, that is so true. And I consider those two posts as my family now. But I try to help as much as possible because some of the veterans that come into the canteen, they don't understand the paperwork, like to get CMP or you know, even going to the Dayton VA or, you know, any VA hospital for certain illnesses that they might have. So they're seeking outside help for this.
Sure, absolutely.
Which I keep telling them, like, just put it in. I'm like, what's the worst thing that the VA is going to tell you? Well, it's not service connected, or I get 0%. That 0%, it means a whole lot. And you should put down that because they, you know, just like they just passed the PACT Act to backdate a lot of, you know, the Vietnam for the Agent Orange and other stuff. But they're just not realizing that some of the stuff that people are going through now, it's a long time effect from their service. So I try to help them and try to get the information or guide them at least to the right area so they can get it. Like our older veterans, they're not computer savvy as the younger veterans. But at the same time, you know, that's why we're here. Like, once you raise that right hand, doesn't matter if you're from California, Hawaii, or Guam, or if you were stationed on the East or West Coast. We're all brothers and sisters at the end of the day, and we have to have each other's back.
Absolutely.
So that's the model that I go by. And even online, you know, I'm on social media, and I have a lot of friends that I still connect with through there. And when one's having a problem, we all try to chip in, you know, one shape or form. And being involved with the military canteens around in Ohio, I found a longtime battle buddy that I was serving in, and she lives in northern Ohio, and she's doing the same thing that I'm doing. And the awesome thing about her is she developed the one-too-many movement through AMVETS. And the one-too-many movement is in gearing suicide, because one too many is way too much.
Absolutely. absolutely. Yeah, we talked about suicide, but one thing we haven't really elaborated on is the PACT Act.
Yes.
You were talking about how you actually, through your commissioner service and your involvement with the fraternal organizations, that it really is one of those places where veterans are hearing first about the PACT Act. And for those listeners who aren't aware of what the PACT Act is, that's the Promise to Address Comprehensive Toxins Act that the president signed into law last August, and is expanding veteran health care and benefits to more than 6 million veterans.
Yes.
So it's the biggest expansion to VA benefits since World War II, actually.
And it's great because, like myself, I have asthma and sleep apnea. And, of course, they kind of, the VA always try to trace back to see if it's like hereditary or did you have it before. Nobody in my side had it. But they realized that because I was in Iraq and there was so much toxins and the burn pits and, all that air was not great. So, I used to get these coughing spells. Came out of nowhere. I could be sitting in my couch watching TV. Then, bam, I start coughing for no reason. And at first, I was like, oh, it's nothing. It's probably just allergies. But then it's kept going. So I went to the VA and I told them. And this is before the PACT Act was signed. Mm-hmm. And so, I did all the stuff that they told me to do. And then the PACT Act came along. And so they kind of hold my claim back. And until it got signed in. And again, I had to go all through that testing again. But they realized that what I was suffering, it was a result of, when I was in Iraq. But there's other items, like I have IBS, and it was, there's days where it's like, if I'm driving, it hits, and I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm going to get into an accident.
Yeah.
But
Where's the next gas station?
Yeah. But they also trace that back to Iraq. But all these symptoms happened about years after I left the military. Mm-hmm. And they started realizing, well, a lot of people are finding these effects after the military because their bodies are not the same anymore. Right. Mm-hmm. So you're doing different things. You're eating different things now. And because your body, I would say, is more relaxed, I guess, or you're more laid back than to being in the service, the body and the, I guess the DNA is now releasing all of that to be like, hey, there's something wrong with you.
Right, absolutely.
And how I put out, I'm like, these are party favors from leaving the military.
That's a way of putting it. Yes. But Zulma, do you think, or in your opinion, there's a lot of veterans who are not, and they're doing what you initially did, and that was that they're suffering and they're saying, dismissing it.
Suffering in silence quite often.
Yeah.
Yes, I totally agree. There's too many veterans out there that, because of their pride or ego, especially, no offense, but especially the males.
Sure.
I have seen it, that especially the younger ones, they're like, oh no, there's nothing wrong with me. This shall pass. Mm-hmm. Let me take a drink of water and go on my merry way. And it's like I said, I think it's more of a pride. Like they don't want to accept, like, man, this is going on with me.
That's a common thread we hear about the pride or the fact that the military makes us very self-reliant. Yes. or teaches us not to, I don't want to say complain but to dwell on negative issues and so forth, and just suck it up, buttercup, and just push through.
I totally agree, because when I was in, right after basic training, I had stress fractures on my back and my hip and pelvic bone. And I went to AIT, and I just, I would go to the doctor, and they're like, well, drink water and ibuprofen, 800 milligrams of ibuprofen.
Take an aspirin and call me in the morning.
and then when I went to permanent party, they had me on crutches because I couldn't put it anyway. But then I had, like I had the eyes all on me, kind of like, oh, look at this brand new soldier. She has a profile already.
Right.
She's gonna be one of those. And so I kind of had to be like, okay, do I want to be one of those, or do I want to shut these guys up? And so I went and I shut these guys up, which in the long run, it hurted me.
Absolutely.
But being female, being short, and all these other things, and being with a whole bunch of guys, I had to show them who's boss. So, and at the end of the day, now that I'm older, I'm suffering.
Right.
But
actually, that brings me to another thing that we probably need to talk about is that with the PACT Act and people suffering, such as you, they may not be aware of the PACT Act. We're trying to get the word out about that. But any of our listeners who hear about this now, they may ask, well, where do I go? And I would say, first and foremost, if you have questions about the PACT Act and the conditions that you are suffering from, go to www.va.gov/PACT. There you will find a list of presumptive conditions and areas of operations, theaters of operations that would qualify you for care and benefits through the PACT Act. The big difference with the PACT Act is that, while we've had some presumptive conditions, generally speaking, if you needed to get care or benefits through the VA, you had to prove that the condition that you were suffering from was actually connected to your military service. You had to have some kind of documentation in your
medical
records, or something that says, okay, I can actually say there's a definite direct correlation between what my condition is right now and how I obtained that through military service. That's the big difference. Now they are presumptive conditions. If you have that condition and you were in a theater of operation, you are presumed, or it is presumed, that you contracted that condition through your military service. You don't have to prove it. So like you were saying, years later, all of a sudden I find out I have hypertension, or that I have IBS, or that I have all these other issues that now they can actually say, well, okay, it's on the list of presumptive conditions. We're going to qualify you and get your claim through and provide you with benefits or health care to take care of this. And again, there's so many veterans out there who are too proud or not aware, or just don't even want to act on this because I've already got medical care. I don't need that.
Or they feel like they're taking away from the older generation.
Oh, and that's the other thing that
and I totally get it, because if you're 30 years old, get fresh out of the military, you think you're Queen Bee or King Bee, and you can go. But at the same time, it was, yes, you volunteered to sign up, raise your right hand, kind of give your body away in a sense, but you should be compensated at the same time because you did that sacrifice.
Absolutely.
Because I'm pretty sure that if you was 20 years old back then and you didn't join the military, you wouldn't have done or experienced half of the things that you would have. But you did. And, I'm not saying, it's a moneymaker or whatever, but at the same time, your body is the most important thing. You can't help somebody else if you can't fix yourself at the same time. So, everybody needs to go and apply and submit their claim and get that help. Not, if anything, think about your children or their grandchildren. You want to be there for them, but you can't do that if you're going to sit there and suffer in silence.
Right, absolutely. Right. So we're going to take another quick break here. When we come back, we'll hear more from our U.S. Army veteran, Zulma Schrupp.
Our veterans put everything on the line to protect our freedom. We may never be able to repay them for their sacrifice, but we can show them just how much we appreciate all they've done. Every day, hundreds of people just like you volunteer to help our veterans. You can help by simply sharing your time, lending a warm smile, a supportive hand, or a sympathetic ear to someone who needs it. Everyone can do something to make our veterans know how much we appreciate their service. What will you do?
The Dayton VA changed my life. There was a time I was jobless and homeless, didn't know where to turn for help. I felt like there was no hope for me. Then I learned about the Dayton VA. They helped me find the help I needed to get back on track. I received support, got a job, found a place to live. I got my life back.
Don't wait another day to see how the VA may help you.
I'm a vet, and it's my VA. Make it your VA today.
To enroll, call 937-268-6511, extension 5336, or visit dayton.va.gov.
And we're back with Army veteran Zulma Schrupp. So tell us, we've been talking a lot about your experience with the Dayton VA already, but how did you get involved with going to the VA? You said you started going in Columbus?
Yes, I started going in Columbus. I've been to too many VAs. Moving in and out of Ohio.
Sure.
So I've been to the Columbus VA. I've been to Hampton, Virginia, Durham VA, and the Dayton VA. But yeah, sometimes I'll have like an appointment here at the Dayton, or sometimes I have it at the Columbus because I live right in the middle. Mm-hmm. So which is great because sometimes Columbus might not have it, but Dayton might have it, and it's better than because when I lived in North Carolina, I would have to go like to the outsources, like the little clinics, which have the bare minimum services compared to an actual hospital. I prefer the actual hospital, but the VA hospital in itself, they have it where they could accommodate your preference.
Sure,
which
absolutely.
is nice compared to the civilian. Medical insurances and doctors and stuff. Sometimes you have to go to in-network, or you go to out-network, you have co-payments and stuff. So it's great. But at the same time, the VA has it where you can also outsource it.
Right.
And they pay for it.
Yeah, the VA has, it has, like the VA hospitals themselves, the medical centers have larger regions of many, many counties. But they might have VA clinics on the outreaches of those. Which is very convenient. You say, it's not the full service of the medical center. Certainly isn't. However, if you just need to see a doc, if you need the emergency care, if it's just a routine appointment, that's a great convenience for a lot of people because, there are so many people out there who say, oh my gosh, the Dayton VA, I live up in Lima. Why would I want to go all the way to Dayton? I have to get my passport updated to get to Dayton. So, that's a great convenience for a lot of folks that, for the Dayton VA, there are VA clinics in Lima, Richmond, Middletown, and Springfield, so that people don't have to come in all the way to Dayton for routine care.
Yes.
Let's talk about the women's clinic. Would you care to share your experiences utilizing the women's clinic?
Oh, the women's clinic is wonderful because it's like your primary clinic. Like, you don't have to have a primary doctor and like a gynecologist. You know what I mean? You can have like a jack of all trades at the women's clinic, which I actually like. So, and then plus it's kind of private in a sense, like, so it gives you that one-on-one kind of privacy, and it's all women that work there. So if you have something to say, it's not looked down upon. I'm like, compared to like having like a male nurse there and you're like kind of timid, like, when was like your first menstruation period?
Right. That's something that not all women are comfortable talking to about a man. And yes, every women's clinic, even at not just the medical centers, but we have women's clinics at those regional VA clinics, the community-based outpatient clinics. They all have private entrances, and it is that atmosphere that you can go in and not feel intimidated or threatened because even though it's never intentional, it might be perceived as such. So that's why we have that. Just just as the VA overall is that special place that veterans can go to, they walk through the door and it's like, oh, I'm home. It's the military again.
Yeah.
It's very similar for the women's clinic.
Yes.
Yes, I can go in and it's just for me. It's just for talking to people who understand my special needs.
Yes. And the other thing that I like about the women's clinic, not only that it's like closed off, but I know when my kids were a lot younger, I had to bring them sometimes because I couldn't find daycare. And they have like little books and like a little activity center for them. So even when I went back to, to go see the doctor, I was comfortable enough to leave them out in the waiting room, and they wasn't going to wander off. And the nurses have been great. Sometimes they'll tell me, oh, I'll just watch them. So they understand as a mom. And as some of them are veterans, so they understand. Sometimes it's hard to jiggle both lives. It's so that's the other plus thing that I actually do enjoy about the women's clinic. And let's say if I do have a situational issue, sometimes I don't have to have an appointment. I can just go up into the women's clinic and just tell them like, hey, I need to talk to a nurse, blah, blah, blah. And depending on what it is, they saw me right away. Or they'll tell me, well, just wait here. Let's see what we can do. So, it's, like I said, it's more of a one-on-one relationship with the nurses and doctors than it is compared to the primary. Right now, I don't need to go see the women's. I don't have to be part of the women's clinic. So I have primary care, and I see the difference. The different atmosphere and the different kind of doctors, because in the primary care, I feel like my doctor's always changing every year, and then the women's clinic, I always saw that one doctor. So, of course it's a preference.
So, Zulma, with some of the females that are female veterans who are out there on the fence or who have not initiated or enrolled as far as in VA healthcare, what would you advise them, or what would you say to them if you had an opportunity to?
I would tell them definitely go check it out. I'm like, what's the worst thing that it can happen? That you feel uncomfortable, you don't like them, but at least you try to utilize the women's clinic and utilize it at the VA, because there is a lot of female issues that has been affected for being overseas, myself included. I had an issue, and it was a direct link to being in Iraq. The same thing with my sister. She had an issue that was direct link to Iraq, and they kind of understood. And they didn't prolong it, if that makes sense. Compared to maybe if you would have went to a civilian, they would have tried to trace it back or do more stuff, and then in the long run will hurt you. So I was grateful for that. Okay, they saw it, they pinpointed, and they took care of me. And so I'm really grateful for that. And that's what I would tell, especially if you've been overseas or, a female in the Navy that's been on a ship, or an airman that's been on the runway, all their military career, all that toxins, all that fume, it hurts our reproductive system in one shape or form, because sometimes you can't go to the bathroom, when you need to go to the bathroom. So you're holding that in. And as a female, that's a bad thing. Or, if you're out in the field and there's not a shower, sometimes we couldn't shower for days. We had to take the bird bath. But that's not enough for our systems are very sensitive. And so I would they understand that. At the VA Women's Clinic, they understand what we endure. And so definitely go try them out, Try them out one appointment. If you don't like it, okay. But experience that experience.
Absolutely. Don't miss that opportunity. It's benefits that you have earned,
Yes.
and they're unique benefits that serve our veteran community. So yes, great advice. We definitely encourage all veterans
Yes.
to seek the benefits they've earned.
And I do want to point out one thing about enduring the PACT Act. They're starting to find out that some of in the reproductive system for the females is actually connected to, like I said, being overseas, but it's also being involved with, they're trying to, from what I heard, that they was trying to get that into the PACT Act, and even some things are already in the PACT Act.
Yeah, actually, while the PACT Act was signed into law back in August, it has been developing and will continue to develop.
Mm-hmm.
There are always changes to I shouldn't say there are always changes, but there are continuing changes to the PACT Act and expanding opportunities for veterans to take advantage of that legislation and start receiving benefits. So,
Yes.
Again, great
Especially
advice.
for females.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, great advice, Zulma. We really appreciate you sharing that with us and telling female veterans and all veterans to get out there and not waste that opportunity. No one should give up options.
Yes.
And just even if you've got health care somewhere else, even if you don't think you need it now or might need it in the future, you don't want to waste that opportunity. You don't want to waste or give up those options because what's the worst thing they can do is say, well, okay, there's nothing we can do for you. But that would be the same in the civilian world.
Yep.
So don't waste that opportunity.
Yeah.
So yes, we want to thank you very much. So we've been talking to Army veteran Zulma Schrupp. We really truly enjoyed hearing your stories today. Fantastic.
I appreciate
fantastic conversation we had with you today, and thanks again for sharing your time with us today.
Oh, I appreciate being here with you guys. It's been my pleasure, and hope to be back again.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Our veterans put everything on the line to protect our freedom. We may never be able to repay them for their sacrifice, but we can show them just how much we appreciate all they've done. Every day, hundreds of people just like you volunteer to help our veterans. You can help by simply sharing your time, lending a warm smile, a supportive hand, or a sympathetic ear to someone who needs it. Everyone can do something to make our veterans know how much we appreciate their service. What will you do?
The Dayton VA changed my life. There was a time I was jobless and homeless, didn't know where to turn for help. I felt like there was no hope for me. Then I learned about the Dayton VA. They helped me find the help I needed to get back on track. I received support, got a job, found a place to live. I got my life back.
Don't wait another day to see how the VA may help you.
I'm a vet, and it's my VA. Make it your VA today.
To enroll, call 937-268-6511, extension 5336, or visit dayton.va.gov.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Veteran service organizations, often known as VSOs, offer many services for veterans and their families. To learn more, go to va.gov.
We want to say thanks again to our special guests for taking time today to share their story. We truly enjoy hearing stories from veterans from across the region and learning more about how they found care through the Dayton VA Medical Center. And as always, we want to thank our listeners for joining us and remind them, if they are a veteran and are not enrolled, to enroll with the Veterans Health Administration to receive health care benefits through the Dayton VA Medical Center. It's easy and it doesn't cost a thing. You just need to be a veteran. The simplest way to start enrollment is to call our enrollment and eligibility office at 937-268-6511, extension 4105. They can schedule an appointment for you to come to the Dayton campus or help make an appointment at one of the surrounding community-based outpatient clinics located at Springfield, Richmond, Lima, and Middletown. Again, that number is 937-268-6511, extension 4105. Veterans may also enroll by visiting www.choose.va.gov/health While there, you can choose from applying online or by phone or by mail. It's just that simple, really. As I said before, it doesn't cost a thing to apply. So what are you waiting for? Call us today. Or if you know of a veteran who is not enrolled, have them call to start taking advantage of this benefit. If you're a veteran, it's your VA. Sign up today. Join us again for another episode of MyVA Dayton with the Dayton VA Medical Center. Our episodes drop the 1st and 15th of each month. I'm Scott Leese with your co-host Greg Tucker. Thanks again for listening to MyVA Dayton.